everyone, Alex at Coram Deo Farm. We are a year 3 Oklahoma flower farm that sells retail market bouquets from our roadside stand. And today I'm not on Zoom. I'm not doing an interview on Zoom like we've been doing. I have my flower bestie next to me in person. She drove all the way up from her farm, which is about 40 minutes away from me, so that we can talk all things like beginner flower farming. She is the same year as me, but she does things totally different. She sells in different ways. She grows different flowers, different color palettes. And so I thought it would be really fun as two farms going into year 3, talk about how our farms are different, but how we do things generally the same from a business perspective. And then talk about maybe mistakes we've learned, things we wish we've done differently, and generally kind of the concerns and problems maybe we see other newbies having that it would be awesome for you to avoid on your own farm. So this is Allison. Allison has Sunshine and Stems. I'll link all of her socials below. She does a great job on her Instagram, particularly with her stories. She takes you behind the scenes a lot on everything that she's doing. But Allison is different from me because she sells at farmers markets and florists. So why don't you tell us a little bit about your farm, size, how you sell, all those things.
So as Alex said, I am going into my 3rd year of flower farming this season. My first year, I was really just like a big test. I knew nothing about farming when I got started. We bought some land in Bixby. Our farm is in Bixby, Oklahoma.
That's a good point. You don't live on your farm. Another reason we're different.
We can come back to that. But yes, we don't live on our farm quite yet. But so yeah, we bought some land out there, and I found the book by Erin Benzakein, of course, Cut Flower Garden. And I was just thought, man, like I could do this. Like I could grow flowers. That sounds like an awesome thing to do. So we wanted to use the land in a profitable way until we decided we moved out there. So I really just got started, and I threw some seeds down and was very unsuccessful.
Do you kind of remember your grow list that first year? I don't think we've ever talked about it. Was it ridiculous?
No, it was like really just a few things. Like I got ridiculous later with like my amounts of things and things I wanted to grow. But like first I threw down bachelor buttons, love in a mist, and poppies.
All right.
I think
so a lot of spring filler.
A lot of spring fillers. And I did get some ranunculus from Eden Brothers.
Okay. Which were not true to what you bought, probably. No, were they like red?
They were all like singles. Like they look nothing like the picture.
Perfect.
If you bought anything from Eden Brothers, you kind of know.
Right.
That's
like a red single.
Pretty much what you're going to get. Yeah. So I had a few ranunculus and a few anemones also, but like I got 0 germination on the poppies.
Perfect.
A little bit of Nigella, but they never did anything. Yeah. They were like 3 inches tall. And then, of course, the bachelor buttons. I mean, you can't really mess those up. They're very tough. Beginner friendly. Yes. So yeah, that's pretty much what I did. And
do you remember your summer flowers at all?
Summer flowers, I did a lot more in the summer.
Okay. Like your classic annuals.
Classic annuals, lots of zinnias, celosia, basil, sunflowers. I bought way too many dahlia tubers for the first year. So, and I did pretty good. I was doing really good in the summer.
How were you selling them?
Farmers market only, really. I had 1 or 2 florists that I did sell to in my first season, but mostly just farmers market in my first season.
And then heading into year 2, how much did you expand? Like from your size plot in year 1 to year 2? Do you remember, like generally, did you double it? Did you triple it?
I would say I probably doubled it. Okay. I started really small though. Okay. I didn't start with a lot of space. Really just like two different beds. I had my overwintered stuff, and then I had a little separate bed for my annual stuff. So yeah, I didn't do a lot of space, but I definitely doubled, and I did a lot more overwintering for the 2nd year.
Better planning for spring to have better spring flowers.
Yeah, way better infrastructure, supplies, frost cloth, making my low tunnels, just making sure everything gets through the winter.
You did proper ranunculus.
did proper
Like
ranunculus.
brought from the right wholesalers.
Italian ranunculus are my favorite, yes. And I did basically all like a pastel mix, which ended up being 90% like pastel pink, which...
Oh, your Italians were the pastel mix, and then it was all pink. So this year, are you buying like clearly separate colors so that it's not...
Okay. Yeah, so it's been like an evolution with everything, really. So this year, I wanted to do more than just the pink. I love the pink, so I still did some of that, but I also did salmon, orange, yellow, pastel purples, and like some different kind of like pinks also. So I'll just have like a rainbow.
So many ranunculus.
I can't wait.
So many.
Just a few more weeks.
Yeah, we're so close. You have so much more than me. It's going to be awesome. If I like run out of ranunculus, I'll just buy them wholesale from Allison.
I think I'm going to be swimming in them. Yeah. I hope. Fingers crossed.
Right. So let me think. So so we talked about how you sell at farmers markets, and you're going to again in year 3. Yes. But you also sold more to florists in year 2 than your first year. You really started to put relationships together with local florists. And did you have some that bought from you very regularly? Or in year 2, was it more sporadic orders you were getting from a bunch of florists?
Yeah, so year 2, I really went into it not expecting all that much with the florist. I still had a few that I had sold to in my first year, and I knew I wanted the business to go that way and to sell more to the florists, but I wanted it to happen like more organically than like seriously pursuing them, I guess I would say, because I knew I had the farmers market to kind of like fall back on. I still had that stream of income. And then the florist kind of just like built as the season went on.
Do you think it built because they were experiencing your product and the quality, and so they felt comfortable coming back to you and buying more? Do you think it was your social media and they heard about you? Why do you think it improved as the season went on?
I think social media, like Instagram specifically with the florist, is like the biggest way to like connect with them.
She spends her time on Instagram and forgets about Facebook. Yes. And sometimes I'll be like, you haven't posted it on Facebook. And she'll be like, oh yeah, Facebook. Whereas I completely half-ass Instagram and spend all my time on Facebook. So that's a good example of like florist customers versus retail of how you spend your marketing time.
Definitely.
So social media, Instagram for you.
Instagram 100% is where all the florists are. So if you're wanting to sell wholesale, definitely you want to like put all your time into Instagram. Just like posting pictures of my product and the flowers, like that's what gets the florist. Did
they see your posts and reach out to you? Mm-hmm.
Yes.
That's how it works. Okay, that's interesting.
For the most part, yes. Like just people that have seen my posts. I mean, I'll follow all the florists that I find in town. And I hopefully they'll like follow you back, and then they will just see the pictures that you're posting and the flowers that you have. And a lot of times they'll just reach out and be like, hey, are you selling like locally? Like, can I get this? Or I had one.
Can I get on your availability list that you send out? Sort of thing.
On the availability list. But yeah, so I went on vacation 1 week last year, and I came back and like the lozanthus had just like blown up. I had so many lozanthus. So like I was like, photo shoot time. So I just took a bunch of pictures, and I didn't pre-sell anything because that just makes me really nervous. But when I got back, I posted all the pictures, and I had a florist from Oklahoma City actually reach out, and she said, oh my gosh, this color lozanthus is exactly what I need for my wedding this weekend. Like, perfect. I need 5 bunches.
Done.
We just connected like that, and just met up, and it was perfect. So it was just, you meet the florist and just build that relationship with the florist, and it just kind of happens like naturally as long as you have good product.
Yep, you have to have quality product. Then they're not going to come back, because if you sell them like blown open, inconsistent stuff, they're going to be like, well, thanks, bye.
Yeah.
So going into year 3, do you anticipate, or maybe what's your goal with florists? Would you rather have like a couple florists who buy a lot from you and that's just like your working relationship? Do you anticipate a lot of new florist sales? Are you going to seek them out? Like, what do you think wholesale will look like for you this year? Because you've scaled up more. You're going to have more flowers to offer them.
Yes. Ultimately, I feel like, and I've talked with a few, my ultimate goal is to have, yes, like just my handful of core florists that I know I'm going to be selling to like week in and week out. That for me, time-wise and like time management and delivering and all that, like I don't have time to deliver to like 15 different places.
We did an ad that Allison has 3 kids, 5 and under.
My oldest is almost 6.
Okay.
Yes, I have,
so she has little ones. So it makes sense that you're like, I'm not going to spend all week doing a bunch of deliveries because often your kids are in tow and it just, you want to be streamlined with like a couple big clients rather than a bunch of like, it's not, what you're saying is like, you're not at the scale in year 3, which is a blessing, where it's worth it to you to sell 2 bunches of tulips to a florist 20 minutes across town and then go to another one for 3 bunches. You're like, I want a florist that's going to buy like hundreds of dollars with a Tuesday delivery. Yes. And that's what I'm doing this week.
Yes, exactly. Yes. I am looking for those that are going to buy, you know, several $100s typically.
The back of your car worth.
Yes.
Order.
Like, fill up the back of my car.
Yeah.
On a Tuesday, run around town, be done.
Yes.
Harvest Wednesday, run around town Thursday, and that's like going to be my wholesale during the week.
Yeah. And then farmers markets on the weekend. That makes sense.
Yes.
How do you communicate with your florists? I know florists relationships like with our Ellen Frost video, which is great. So if you sell to florists, I'll link that below. She clearly talked about like the different ways you can communicate, and it can be very personality dependent with the floral relationship that you're building. So for your florists, how often are you talking to them? How do they know about your product? How many times would you say like you're checking in with them? Like talk us through the comms process.
So this is definitely something I've been working on this year, is just being more efficient with my communication with the florist, just like nailing down exactly how we're going to communicate. So I'm not like texting one person, doing Instagram with another person, doing emailing with a third. Like
that makes sense.
Yes. So consolidating
this
all
is how
to
we
email.
talk. Okay. And that helps with your records too, because like you said, you're not bouncing around everywhere of like, where did we talk about this? And you're like, oh, that was Facebook DMs or whatever.
Yeah. It becomes way too much when you're doing like multiple streams of communication.
Yeah.
So this year, I will be doing a weekly email with availability, hopefully adding in some pictures there.
What does your availability look like? Is it a spreadsheet, like a Google Sheet? Do you have Google
Sheet
variety and how much is available?
Yes, I'll have a Google Sheet that will just be linked every week on my email, and it'll have all the varieties, all the colors, and just like a really good estimate on like bunches, I think, of what I'll have available like the next week.
Okay. And you said you want to add pictures maybe to help them see the exact color?
Yes.
Because like you could say like apricot, but is it like orangey apricot or beigey apricot? That kind of thing.
It can make a big difference. So yes. And I've already gone through for like some of the early season stuff, like daffodils and tulips, and kind of went on Canva and made just a picture and a name, basically like a list of all the varieties that I have currently growing on my farm.
Nice.
So they can reference that, and I can link that like through every email in the spring when I'm offering the daffodils. Like I can just relink that like every time, super easy, so they can reference. But yes, because like there's like way different varieties.
Like
or
purple
colors.
is not purple.
Yeah,
purple is like 15 different options. And I would imagine you do a lot of she works with a lot of wedding and event florists, and so you have some florists that do retail stuff, but a lot of them do wedding and events, and so their palette is going to be much more specific than like a retail client. Yeah, that makes sense. Okay, cool. So that's florist world. Let's talk a little more about farmers markets. Let's talk, since now you're going into year 3 with the farmers market. Yes. You kind of intimated that you want to phase out farmers markets to wholesale to see how it goes. But let's talk about like pros and cons of farmers markets that you experience. Like what have you really, it's been valuable to you? And then maybe what are the reasons where you're like, I kind of want to drop it in the future?
Yes. So I really like the farmers market. I have my customers there that I get to chat with every week.
She sells a lot at the farmers market.
The springtime at the market is busy.
She'd text me. She'd be like, I'm almost sold out, and it'd be like 11 a.m.
Yeah.
So
It was, and I brought a lot of flowers last spring to the market. And literally like a line at my booth. Awesome. Just people waiting. Like I was honestly overwhelmed a couple of the weeks, like almost in tears because of the support of just people coming, and
it feels overwhelming.
They just love spring flowers. Yeah. Like, oh my gosh, I do too. Like
I wish I had more for you. Like, oh my gosh.
Yes. So it was just like, it just makes you feel really good to have that community and like people coming to see you and support you, and they like know your kids, and you just get to know each other.
And it feels good when people freak out about your flowers that you spent so long to grow. It's kind of nice to have them fawned over because you're like, I know. Yes. I looked at those ranunculus for 5 months in the Arctic blast, and I'm so glad you love them. Yeah, that's awesome.
Yes. And then like even like they want to buy like, it could be like a half dead one in the bin, and they're like, I want that one. I want that. It's so beautiful. I'm like, no, I'm not selling you a half dead flower.
Yes.
Like, absolutely not. Like if you want it, have it.
I had customers like that asking if they could go pick the zinnias before Eric tractored them down. I was like, you don't understand. They're the most horrific, like gone to seed things. And they're like, no, they're perfect. And I'm like,
from the street.
Are our standards too high? Because they're dazzled by like not that impressive quality. So
it'd be like a broken head on a ranunculus or something. And they're like, I still want that one. Like, no, I'm not selling that to you.
We have standards here.
Yes.
That's funny. So you like the community?
Yes, community aspect. Socially. Yeah. Just also like the other vendors at the market.
Yeah, you've made friends.
Made friends with a lot of them. So getting to chat with them and getting just to talk about farming or different things for our businesses and getting, just friendships there.
Yeah.
I mean, it's also like a guaranteed stream of income, which is like,
people are going to show up.
People are coming to the market to buy. So all you really have to do is bring a beautiful product and you got sales there. Yeah. I mean, is
different than the flower stand. Like I have less guarantee because my people are not coming for like 10 other reasons. Like someone that buys flowers from you is like, well, I also came for sourdough and my veggies for the week. And so they have an incentive.
Yeah.
A lot of other incentives to come.
Exactly.
My lift is a little more scary. My pro is that we'll talk about it. Like I don't have to leave my house. That's obviously the pro, but I operate with a lot less guarantee if as many people are going to show up than the market.
Yeah. It's like all the pressure is on you. Like they're coming for you and for your flowers.
Yeah.
Yeah. Yeah. So, those
are good pros.
Probably all the pros. Cons, mostly is just the time.
It's a lot of time and you have to wake up early.
You have to wake up early. Yeah. So the time starts on Friday morning. I usually harvest early Friday mornings. Mm-hmm. So I'm getting up in the summer at 5 a.m. We're texting at like 5:15 in the morning in the summer. Like, who does that?
You have to beat the sun.
Farmers, when it's really hot, and I have to basically get all my harvesting done in the morning before my husband leaves for work. Yeah. So I'm out there at 5:15 and I have to be home by 7:30, which 2 hours goes by really quickly.
Yes.
Honestly, when you're harvesting, especially if you're harvesting for like specific orders and you're like going from
you're bunching and counting and stuff.
Yeah, you're trying to count stems. You're trying to like make sure you have enough and also extras for like breakage or things like that.
Right.
2 hours goes by really quickly in the morning. And then basically working around 3 young kids, it takes me all day to like process things and then get the bouquets ready.
You do those Friday night?
Friday afternoon, Friday evening is like when I'm bunching and like making arrangements. And then
we didn't mention this. You sell jars and wraps at the stand, kind of depending on what flowers are blooming, and then your different price points and stuff.
Yes.
So you have different options.
Yes. In the past, I've done jars and wraps.
Which ones do you like better?
Wraps.
Because they take like a fraction of the time. Which ones do your customers like best, or are they kind of like they're going to buy it regardless because they want your flowers?
I do have a few customers that come specifically for the jars.
Yeah,
they buy a jar or two like every single week for their desk at
There's
work.
probably customers that have like 9 of those fancy accent decor vases that you sell because they just buy your jars.
I tried to get people to bring them back, but everyone's like, no, I'm keeping it.
Yeah.
It's pretty. I think I held one back of all the ones I sold. But yeah, so it just takes a lot more time to arrange a jar, whereas like, you know, you're placing every single stem, and like I want every arrangement to be something that I would love.
Yeah, you're not just like plunking the flowers
I'm not
in.
I'm not just throwing them all in there willy-nilly. Like I'm making it something like that I would love and like want to enjoy in my home. So I put a lot of time and care into making the arrangements. Yeah. So that takes a long time. I mean, we're going typically like pretty late into the night. Sometimes I don't even start until like the kids are going to bed because
you just want to do it solo.
Yeah.
You're like, I'll get it done technically faster if they're asleep.
Way faster when I can just like focus and not have all
and sometimes
the
you're doing it on your kitchen island and it's like you have dinner and like other life to do in the house.
Just eat around all the floral stems
and
everything. Yeah. So last year, my parents actually came by a lot on Fridays, and they would like kind of help me wrangle all the kids, and we'd have dinner together, and that would be like our Friday night tradition. So that did help, but like 3 kids, it's just still a lot.
That's just still the reality. Doable, but a lot. Yeah.
And then you get the morning, so I'm leaving at like 6:30 to go set up at the market, and I'm at the market it goes from 8 to noon. So that's 4 more hours. So it's like half the day on Saturday. And you're tired when you get back. You're not like exactly loving the idea of like going to work on the farm in the afternoon. And like do things in the farm in the afternoon or like in the summer by noon or 12:30, it's way too hot anyway. So like you're out that whole day of like work or anything that you need to be done is like, that time is taken, and weekends are definitely like precious time to me. It's like
because husband's home and you have help, and
it's the only time I really have like blocks of time where I could spend working on the farm. So, I think time is like the hardest thing.
Is your desire to truly phase out the farmer's market though, and really build your business around like the wholesale model?
Yeah.
Because it is interesting. So the big joke that her and I have is like, we grow some similar flowers, but our color palettes are like night and day. Like when she sees me with like a bright orange or a red flower, she's like, gross, Alex. Like, what are you doing?
Or a black ranunculus.
I cannot believe I'm growing those. I'm offended by those. But like my retail customers, like I get it. They want like bright, bold, saturated. Like just bright on their table. And you're selling to florists that are like, I have a bride who wants like peachy apricot. Completely opposite.
Yeah.
Do you find that at the farmer's market though, your customers are fine with like the softer palette? Because I know you send some darker colors a bit to the farmer's market, but really your farmer's market is getting what the florist didn't order. So they're not leftovers from a quality standpoint, but they are like excess would be the better word. Yeah. Like they're the excess at the farmer's market. Does your farmer's market customers like the pastel tone? I should mention, this is important. We live demographically in different places. So like, even though she's 40 minutes away in Tulsa, I'm like country ranches, cattle, homesteaders, and Allison lives in a suburban neighborhood. Her farm's a little more out of town, so she has acreage, but the people that go to the farmer's market and stuff are like higher income, suburban city people. Yeah. And often that aesthetic can be more trendy and tonal and pastel-y. So do you think
I think it's definitely like a mix of people that go to the market. And I think specifically I like that I stick to a different color palette. Honestly, I think the people that will buy from me at the market, that's what they're looking for and that's what they want. Like a little bit more elevated.
It's very soft. It's what I would buy.
Yeah, it's like So last year I still had some brighter colors in the zinnias. I had a lot of purples that went to the farmer's market.
And your sunflowers. Your sunflowers tend to go
sunflowers,
to the
I don't
farmer's
sell,
market.
like I had one florist that wanted sunflowers she had subscriptions, or she used them for subscriptions, but like really none of the other florists are all that interested in sunflowers, just like here and there. But it's not, for the florist specifically, it's not worth it to me to continue sewing like 200 sunflowers every week in, week out. Like the florists aren't going to use those.
No.
It's a waste of my time and energy.
Yeah. That makes sense.
So, I think the people that come to my booth specifically at the market that's what they're looking for, is like those like more peachy pastel-y tones.
Very feminine. It's a very feminine palette. Yeah.
And I mean, that goes to say, like, we have a lot of other vendors and farmers at our market that bring flowers in the summer. So
why don't we talk about that?
Yeah.
So in the spring, because Allison is a really competent and talented grower, she very rarely kills things. She does a great job. And so she's like the main show in town in spring at the farmer's market you sell at. So like just your ranunculus, and you're going to have peonies soon, and it's incredible. Most people don't have spring flowers because of all the labor that it takes to overwinter them and stuff here. But then in summer, where everyone can buy a seed packet and direct sow a zinnia, the market gets flooded.
Yeah. So in the spring, like all of the typically like veggie farmers, they're not overwintering ranunculus and anemones.
No, because it's not profitable for them.
Yeah. So they're working on their veggie crops, I guess, at that time, or whatever they're doing. But they're not doing like the higher dollar type of crops like that in the spring. So basically, the market for flowers is much smaller in the spring, and
you stand out.
We do have a few vendors that specifically only do flowers. So there is competition there, but not like there is in the summertime.
Not like the summertime. Like, where every veggie farmer has.
Oh my gosh. Yeah. In a solo cup, and people will buy
for like
it
$5.
For $5. Yeah. A bunch. And it's their bouquets will be really, really big too. Some of them were up to like $15. But it's like
25 cents. It's like crazy.
It's a mass amount of flowers, and they're bright, and like the sunflower is as big as my face. But that will draw some people in, and they will buy that regardless.
That's a great point, because what you're trying to do is like, everyone's not my customer. Yeah. And the person that wants to pay like the cheapest amount of money for crap quality flowers, you're not their girl. Yeah. And so like your color palette, the way you arrange the flowers, your price point, like you are attracting the person that's not attracted to like the biggest and cheapest.
Yes. Yeah. Yes. That's definitely what I'm going for. Is I'm not going to try to compete with the other farmers and like try to drop down my price point. I'm going to continue growing higher value crops.
And I didn't even think about it until you just were saying it, is like the veggie farmers with the cheap flowers, like I haven't seen them, but like they're the bold, bright colors. Huh?
Yeah.
Like the garish, like really bright.
Every color.
So then by having a different palette, people are like, oh my gosh, that's like you have a soft lavender in July, and it's your Lizzie's or something. Yeah. And like they don't have that. They have like fuchsia and whatever. And so it's going to be different. You're not trying to compete $20, $5, and it's the same looking
It's the
product.
same size. Because a lot of people will go for size over, if they see mine. They don't really understand that my flowers may last 4 or 5 days longer than the other bouquets they see.
Or your sunflowers don't have pollen. That's just going to like make a huge mess.
Yeah. So I'm hoping like the Lizanthus, I did lots of colors in that this year. I'm hoping I can bring a lot more of that, because I know, and it really sucked last year because the one week I had a lot of Lizanthus for the market, we got rained out.
Was it the rain one?
Yes, it got rained out, and I was so sad. But even in like even when it was like monsooning in the morning, I still had people like trying to get to my booth and being like, I want the Lizanthus. Yes. Like I came here specifically for that. So I know people will love it. And I'm hoping by like more than doubling my crop this year that I'll have lots to share at the market too. And it'll just help drive business in like July and August, where it does definitely like slow down a lot at the
That's
market.
a great way to differentiate yourself. Because you're like looking at your competition and you're like, yeah, there's a couple other flower farms, and then there's the like, they're loss leaders essentially. Like they're putting out the cheap flowers to attract people, so they also buy their carrots and tomatoes and stuff. Like it's a tactic. It's not a profit for them.
Yeah.
But like seeing what they grow, seeing what the other farmers grow, and you're like, okay, well, like I'm gonna go big into Lizzie's as like my differentiator, or like my color palette is going to be distinctly different, so it's offering them something different instead of just being like the race to the bottom in price and size of product. Because that doesn't benefit. Like if there's another flower farmer there that's selling $25 wraps, it's like, well, then you go to 20, and then they go to 17, and you're just like, this isn't how big. You got to think of different ways to be different and maintain profitability.
Exactly.
Not just price point.
Yes.
Awesome. Do you think you can give up the farmer's market after this year? Or is it going to be hard? Because you do well at the farmer's market, even though it's exhausting.
It's going to be so hard.
But maybe your florist sales will go so well that maybe I'll get texts from you where it's like, I'm actually struggling to make as many wraps and stuff as I want to at the farmer's market because my wholesale week was so strong.
Yeah.
That'd be a good problem to have. Because that's what you want.
That's what I'm hoping this kind of happens this year, is that I have not enough maybe for the market. But the only reason that I feel like the market is not sustainable for me is the time factor, and that
with the kids and stuff.
I mean, that's literally the only reason. And lots of people are able to do the market with young kids. I totally get that. I just don't know if specifically that is for me.
Your kids are also very young. Like, I could probably do a farmer's market with kids now because it's like 9, 7, and 5-year-olds.
They can't
You're like potty
themselves.
Training still and have to do a diaper change. That's a different world.
And then like Mikey is starting. He just turned. Well, he's 3.5, and he's starting soccer. He's going to do soccer.
Yeah,
this
he does
spring,
stuff
and,
with
like,
dad.
It's on Saturday mornings,
and it's time with dad. Like,
it is time with dad.
Yeah,
he's going to have all 3 kids at the soccer field by himself, I guess.
You can do it, Dad.
Just get in there.
How do you think, like, putting yourself in your shoes at the end of this year, how do you think you'll kind of make that decision? I feel like if it ends up being like wholesale was 60%, farmer's market was 40, will you kind of be like, okay, well, I'm going to do one more year of farmer's market with a goal of ending year 4 with more of like a 70-30 breakdown and kind of like slowly wean the farmer's market? Or you kind of be like, no, this is just probably going to be my last year and I'll just figure it out on the wholesale? And how are you going to make decisions this year?
So honestly, and I didn't keep track last year, but I feel like I was probably pretty close to 50-50 between wholesale and farmer's market, just because springtime was so good for the farmer's market.
Your Mother's Day was like bananas.
I wasn't really selling wholesale at the beginning. So
that's true.
It just kind of went from like market, wholesale, and it, as the season went by, like,
because you were getting bigger and bigger wholesale orders.
So I was getting more wholesale orders and bigger wholesale orders, and florists that were buying from me like every single week and things like that, which I didn't start off with at the beginning of the season. Yeah. So, I honestly don't know, but so the plan is we've had our house on the market for a little while and hoping that it's going to be selling soon and we'll start building on our farm property.
Yay. That's going to make life so much easier.
Yes, so much easier, so much better. Specifically, I mean, for everything, for all around, we just want to be out there. Yeah. But for the farm specifically, like, so much better for me. I could pop out there.
You get way more efficient.
And do, like, just 30 minutes or whatever, like, while the baby naps. Like, I can get so much more done.
Yes.
But that also brings in more opportunities, like a farm stand.
Mm-hmm. I'm not offended by it because she's 40 minutes away from me.
We're too far away.
It's a non-compete friendship is what this is.
Yeah. So
don't move to Claremore. Not interested.
Definitely not moving to Claremore.
Friendship over.
Yeah. Yeah, so I feel
you could do like events and stuff if you wanted. Yeah, like smaller workshops type things. Yeah.
Anything that I would do like on farm or anything like that would be. I would never have it like open to the public. No, like
we're not going to live that life.
Yeah, I can't live that life. But like special events or like maybe maybe like I don't know if I'd ever do a U-pick. I don't know. But maybe if like I just have like tons of flowers, like a special event or something like
rather
that.
than like a business model.
Yes,
of a
it would
U-pick,
just have to be like kind of like a, oh my gosh, we're going to do something fun. Like, because people ask me all the time about U-picks.
Or
honestly.
a U-pick that's like, you know, it's a bachelorette party or it's like a girls' night and it's like a very controlled U-pick rather than like, come pick Saturdays from 9 to 11. Like that gives me a heart attack where just like anyone could show up and want to be on the property. No. Yeah, I feel like the boutique curated experience where like I'm there and it's like a supervised
experience. Like a small group that I can keep a handle on.
Please don't pick those peonies. That's not foliage. Please get out of the peony patch. Yes. Get out of the high tunnel. Thank you.
Yeah. Get out of there. So just more opportunities like that. So instead of like completely cutting off a stream of income, like it could morph into
you can diversify differently. Yeah. Get rid of the like, it's hard. The Saturday commitment is hard.
It's hard. It's hard to give up like a guaranteed stream of income. Yeah. That's for sure. But I feel like after this year, I'll definitely have a really good idea of like where the wholesale is going or could go. Because I have those relationships already that will start at the very beginning. So I'll have a way better idea of like where I can be sales wise for wholesaling. So this year we'll be
comfortable with. Yeah, that makes a lot of sense. That makes a lot of sense. Let's talk about here. So now that we're both entering into year 3, what are some of our goals? I'm like asking myself this question. What are some of our goals of how we want to improve this year? Because we get better each year at things. Like we get more efficient. We realize like that was really stupid or I'm moving too slow there or like this would be smarter. So like, for example, something I want to do better at is I want to operate off of harvest sheets. I don't totally want to do like what I've been doing. Like last year, I pretty much like filled as many buckets as I could and I would cut as much as I could. And then however many bouquets were made from those buckets is what I put out on the stand. And so it's like more reactionary. Yeah. And this year I want to be more like, okay, I have a goal of 75 bouquets. They're each going to have 9 stems. So I need this many stems total. You know, and kind of work backwards and then go out there with much more like purpose rather than just maybe more like a Roomba where it's like, oh, well, that looks good or well, that looks good. Be more focused. And then that way I can have goals where it's like, okay, I have an hour, like the kids are napping. I'm going to go cut the 3 buckets of zinnias I need. And it's like, that was my task instead of just like, well, what looks good right now? Or how many can I get to? Or I don't know how many I need. That's one of the ways I want to improve. What about you?
Too. I'm definitely that way with the farmer's market harvesting. Like I never really like go in there like knowing what I need or
you're like I'll cut until the time runs out.
I just cut all the zinnias that look good. Yeah. And take them. But like
I mean that's not bad if we're gonna sell out. So if we're not wasting a lot of stems, like that's not the end of the world. But I kind of wonder if I will end up having more waste if I'm not more
because sometimes like I just end up I don't count. Like, so for saying you're making a summer bouquet where you've got basil, you've got zinnias, you've got sunflowers and celosia. Say those are your 4 ingredients. Yeah. And you're just like cutting and not paying attention.
To like, ratios
you could have way too much basil.
You're like here's your celosia bouquet.
And then you have celosia you can dry. So it's okay. So cut like a little bit more than that. But like things like basil that you can just let grow. Like, it doesn't have a small harvest window. Like you could have let that grow out and like for another week it would have been fine. And could you use that next week? And maybe you're low on basil the next week and like you wasted the basil because you just like cut.
Yeah, you had like 15 extra stems and you're like, well, like I can't do anything with that.
Like nobody wants a bouquet of basil.
Correct. maybe some people do. Who knows?
I do.
New product idea: basil bunches.
Basil bunches.
Yeah. So getting more efficient with that. Do you have any particular ways you want to improve with your wholesale? Like whether it's efficiency stuff on your end or in like communication, relationship building with the florists? Like what do you want?
So my main thing with the florist this year is definitely like my communication with them. I need to have it like
dialed in.
Yeah. Yeah. To where, I'm sending my weekly availability on this day. making sure all the orders are in this day, and I have it planned out to where like I know that I'm going to have what they're ordering also, which is like a really stressful point.
This is a question I see a lot, that like one of the reasons why wholesale panics me a bit is like, I'm sure you've gotten better at this, but how do you project like what's going to, it's probably scary, right?
Yeah.
Where you're like, because you're having to tell them what you think is going to be available.
It's really scary.
Are you just getting to know like your microclimate, your crops, and you're like, okay, like I've learned like when the Lysianthus looks like this, they're a week away from being harvested. Like, is that just what you've learned?
I think it
observationally?
it does have a lot to do with just experience and like kind of looking at things. You have to look at the weather. Like, is it going to be like a really hot, sunny week? Obviously, like things are going to be blooming out quicker, or is it going to rain all week and like they're just going to stall? So you have to like, there's lots of factors at play. Luckily, the florist are super understanding.
They are?
Honestly.
Okay.
Yeah. Like all the ones that I've worked with, they understand. If you like, I always let them know also, like as I'm harvesting or something, like if something is not coming up, like the numbers aren't quite there or like they just weren't ready. Like, and I thought they were going to be ready. I just like let them know as I'm going, and typically like super understanding.
So I get they order 5 bunches from you of Lizzie's and you ended up with like 3. They'll still order that from you.
Yeah, typically.
Instead of being like scrap it the whole order sort of thing.
No, I've never had anything like that where they're like,
it's just being open with them. Okay, that's good to know.
And I'll always, like, if stuff like that happens, I always try to offer like a substitution or something else, or like, I don't have like, I have 3 bunches of the apricot, Lizzie, but I have 2 bunches of the honey pink. Like, do you want to mix? Or, and, you know, sometimes yes.
Colors are so stupid. Honey pink,
like,
apricot.
So typically super understanding.
Okay. So getting more dialed in with your organization, and then by extension your communication with the florist.
Definitely. That's what's going to help me like the most along the way, is just making sure I'm not like spending all my time communicating with the florist. Like, I need to have a set.
It's almost like office hours of like, I send my availability list out, let's say on Monday, and you're like, okay, Sunday evening, I'm going to prep it. I'm going to get it all together, instead of like a little bit Friday, a little bit Saturday, randomly at nap time Sunday. It's like, this is when I do these
like
tasks.
Sundays, whatever day of the week, that's the day I need to go out to the field, and I need to look at all my crops, like, and see what I've got, see what's coming, just like have
your field notes.
Like I'm gonna have to have like a notebook or something with me, I think, which
you
I've
probably
never
can't
done
wing
before.
it anymore at your volume.
I really just
I feel like year 3 for both of us is like the year of winging it probably won't work anymore. At least not how it was. Like with my harvesting, it's like, well, it worked because I was trying to put out like 30 bouquets, but towards the end of the season when I was at like 50, 60, that was not, it was not going as easily and smoothly.
I mean, it takes a lot of time and work to like put all that together. And I think, I know you talked about this a lot, but with different people, is cutting down my crop list. It's probably going to be big for me.
This is a problem that Allison has, and let's publicly shame her. She has too many varieties on her list, and I tell her that. But then she says, yeah, but like this florist will buy these flowers, and this one wants these.
Maybe.
But
so, I don't know.
Tell us what you're finally going to cut, do you think?
Well, I definitely got bachelor buttons this year. You're growing more.
Bachelor buttons are out.
So, it just becomes a big bush, and you can't do anything with it.
And they're so dinky. Like when you finally cut it, you're like, I just spent 30 minutes cutting bachelor buttons, and you have 1 bucket. And you're like, what is this?
Little spray in there. Which is, I do like them in the spring. Like the little blue ones can be such a cute little like.
But the effort to harvest to the impact they bring is like, you're not pulling your weight.
I think some self-sowed though. On the farm.
Yeah, mine did. My walkways are all like bachelor buttons right now, and I haven't.
Bachelor buttons, and Biplorum is like my walkways right now at the farm. So I did not sow any of that this year. If you ever want to have bupleurum, just plant it one time.
Yep.
At least here in our climate. And all I did, I let some go to seed. And I like shook them out.
It's like a maraca. Yeah. You're just like, here.
Just like shake them out. And I had like a pile of them
they
also.
Do reseed,
and it's just like, it was massive. Perfect. I have a mass pile, but like, they're like all over the farm.
So you're going to be fine with your bupleurum filler in May. For your farmer's market jars. Yeah. It's just like, here's
I'm still going to have the bupleurum, which I was kind of sad that I didn't plant any. So I'm happy that did reseed. And I'll be interested to see what the Nigella does because I've never had luck growing it purposefully. So, and it looks it's one of those neglect flowers.
If you don't think about it, it'll do a good job.
I didn't cover it like really in the Arctic blast or anything. Like
it's like foxglove. Not foxglove, larkspur. It's like larkspur will germinate fantastically if you just let it reseed and ignore. But when you do it in trays, you're just like, why will you not germinate?
Larkspur, larkspur has been on my
So what else do you think you'll cut this year?
I'm trying to think of what I had last year that I cut this year.
Did you cut anything this year?
Yeah, I did.
Surprisingly.
I didn't totally cut out sunflowers, but
a lot less.
Cutting way back on sunflowers. I'm not doing...
And I'm like tripling.
Yeah, I'm not doing...
Again, totally different.
I'm going to try to do some spring ones and some like maybe fall ones, but like throughout
the summer.
Once you get to like July, I would start...
But all the veggie farmers have the sunnies. So it's like, you don't
I guess they must direct sow or something, which...
I think they do.
Maybe I could try. Well,
they're veggie farmers, so they're going to have...
You're talking me out of cutting things out here.
Shoot. No, but like the veggie farmers are going to have their cedars, and they can do sunflowers with their corn plate. Yeah, so they're just doing it that way.
I don't have anything like that.
Yeah.
But I don't know. I cut out Bells of Ireland. I didn't do that this year.
Yeah, that one's tricky.
I'm putting out like more foliages because the florists just really aren't. They're super interested in the foliages. Okay. They just want the flowers.
That's interesting.
Think of what else did I cut?
You also, though, I think part of what makes your list seem a lot bigger than mine is you grow a lot of, I guess we could say like sub-varieties.
Yeah.
So like we're both growing Lizzie's, so technically that's the one variety on our list.
Yeah.
But like you're growing 3 times the amount of like colors.
Yeah.
And the different sub-varieties. Like Celeb and Voyage and ABC, you're doing a lot. So it's like in a sense...
Yeah, I have like...
They all grow the same because they're a Lizzie, but like your palette
I'm
of
doing
that
like
crop...
7 different colors of celosia. Or
I'm doing like 1.
But so I cut down
that does
like
make
the
it
amount.
feel a lot.
Yeah,
like it's a lot.
It makes it feel a lot because I was
or
like,
snapdragons.
Oh
you have way more colors of snapdragons than I do.
Yeah, like 10. I don't know, like
and
10
like
colors.
every group, like every type. You have like Costa and Madam and Potomac.
Yeah.
You do.
Yeah. Well, Costa and
do you have Chantilly?
Yeah, I have 1.
See,
you should, and you even sent that to me, the Chantilly light salmon.
Yeah,
come on.
I mean,
so I needed to try that one, but it was kind of a pain. I don't know. That one was
to
hard.
germinate.
Yeah, it didn't do so well. I had a lot of damping off on that one, but I'll still have some.
Yeah, well, I'll have a million. So if you need them,
yeah. So, yeah, like Sorrent I tried last year, and I'm not going to do that again. Okay. It just wasn't super popular, and I felt it was very hard to incorporate even into bouquets because it has, like, the drooping habit.
Oh, yeah,
like, hard to incorporate into a wrap. Just didn't work. Salvia, I'm not going to do again. Just not enough, like, bang for your buck there.
Yeah.
It was just a really small stem, and it was, like, a sticky stem. I just never really used it. Anything? I think maybe that's it. But like I've still like added on like a few random things this year. Like forget-me-nots. I'm gonna try those out, which I did a small amount.
You do small amounts for trialing.
Yeah.
You're not doing like I'm gonna add Chinese forget-me-nots and then I'm gonna do 30 feet of them. It's like I'm gonna do a section and see how they go. That I almost don't count. Well, technically I count it, but like the labor and time you're gonna spend on like a trial patch is way different than if you had like full row quantity for 40 different varieties. Like that's when it gets absurd.
And I feel like I'm still, especially with like everything I've overwintered this year, it was still like an experimental year because the past year I did the Bells of Ireland and the bupleurum. So like a lot of just like foliage.
Yeah.
And this year I'm just trying a lot more flowers. Or like cool flowers. So it's just like an experiment, honestly. And like I'm trying to find like what is going to thrive over our winters and like not like just barely make it through.
Like stock?
Yeah. Stock didn't make it. Stock didn't cut it for
Stock is hard. Not with that Arctic blast.
Dude, stock is hard even in the spring. Like stock
because our spring is so short and it's so hot here.
Yeah, like we've already had 80s temperatures and then 20s, and now we're going back to 80s.
And the stock is like, I would like to go live on an Oregon farm, please. Thank you.
Take me to California.
Exactly.
Yeah. I still like stock. I still did a lot of stock.
I know, because the florists like it, but
it's
a more stressful
it's a great
crop.
filler.
It's not like a confident. Like snaps are confident. Like you generally know how to grow them. They can handle, you know, aside from a freak weather event, like they're fine. But like stock, you're much more like anxious about. Yeah. And looking at the weather and putting the shade cloth on and like more stressed.
And it's like single cut, so you don't get a lot out of it.
Do the florists like it?
The florists love it.
Okay.
My problem with stock is I see like what they can get from the wholesalers with stock, cheap. And it's like huge and
really?
Yeah, like
so the quality's there for wholesale.
Like well, you know, they're growing.
Because I feel like our snaps, like a local snap, is so much better than an imported wholesale snap. Yeah, but not for stock.
Yeah, snaps. I definitely agree. They can be like way better.
Huge here.
Some of my snaps last year like were kind of small. I don't know what happened, but the ones that were good were like so good, and
you
like,
had some good ones,
way better. And like some of the snaps I saw, like some of the wholesalers get in like literally like that,
and they're really thin.
Like, how do you use that?
Yeah,
like,
they don't rehydrate.
I was like, do you get a refund like when they come in like that? And no.
You should be a Snapdragon farm.
Oh my gosh.
the exclusive Oklahoma Snapdragon supplier.
I feel like they're such a pain to start from seed, but I do like starting them from seed somewhat.
Yeah, you do both. You do plugs and seeds.
I want to do some of both because I do like some of the varieties that I can grow from seed that you like can't get a plug. Good point. And I do like that. Just like
and you're good
at
seed starting
from people that may not start seeds that I can start a seed and it'll be something different that they won't have. Like
it's a good idea.
Everyone might have like everyone's probably gonna have like a light pink or a white Snapdragon, and maybe all have like that melon color that like doesn't come from a plug. So
like how to start from seed, and I can start things from seed.
Yeah, snaps are such a pain though.
You're good. Yours looks so good.
They take so long.
Yours looks so good though,
and it kill tons of snaps along the way. You just have to seed like at least three,
like a carpet, like a carpet of snaps, and go from there.
I did another round of snaps yesterday. Yeah, and like I was starting, like I did the tappy, and I did a couple like that, and like you just see like 5 or like 10 going to sell, and
you're like, seed is cheap. Seed is cheap.
500 seeds is like $5. It's okay. It's okay.
We can do it. We can afford.
Are not gonna be able to shed their seed head, and like just as you go, like it turns out okay. And like sometimes I can separate a few of them, but
and sometimes when it's just 2, you can leave the 2 together. Because that's how the plugs come.
I for sure leave 2 together. Yeah. Even 3, I'll probably leave together.
Bold.
Yeah.
Really. I mean, if it's a little bit shorter, it's still okay. Usable.
I mean, it'll, especially if you're spring planting, they have plenty of time to like plant growth.
Yeah, that makes sense. Okay, let's talk here at the end about, now that we're entering into year 3, we're by no means like pros or settled in, but we've scaled up both. We sell very similar amounts. Our revenues last year were very similar, selling different ways, but our scale is very similar. I feel like for both of us going into year 3, like we've scaled up a lot. Yeah. We have big goals for this year of revenue. And so I feel like I have my arms around flower farming way more going into year 3 than I did in year 1 and 2. Where do you see observationally? Because Allison's in our Facebook group that we have, the profitable group, and she's on Facebook and Instagram a lot and stuff. Where do you see newbies? So newbies being defined as like, they have a flower farm dream, they're in year 1 or year 2, like mistakes or ways they might be going wrong, where you're kind of like, red flag, like don't do that, like don't go down that path, or like consider this instead. Where do you see that happening a lot?
Oh man.
I
feel like
growing too many varieties?
I feel like, yeah, a lot of people do that. like we've gone through it. So like we've been there and we've learned from it. Yes. So we try to give some help along the way. But yeah, like trying to do too many varieties, selling yourself short, I think is a lot of
like with pricing.
Yeah.
That's a great point.
You're not gonna. I mean, it's fine to be a hobby. It's fine.
Yeah, totally.
And you can totally be a hobby. But if you're really wanting it to be like a point of income for you or your family or whatever, like you have to price accordingly for that. Like,
and it doesn't help you to lowball year 1 and then increase a bunch in year 2 when you feel more confident.
Yeah.
That's not a helpful tactic.
Yeah.
Like launch well.
Yeah.
Okay. So pricing, meaning no more $10 jars.
No. $10 is too low.
Yeah.
I mean, come on. Like, there's so much work. We put so much time, so much effort, and care into, like, bringing the flowers from seed or whatever to the bouquet. Like, that's worth more than $10.
Yes. I agree.
And people that don't think that are just not your customers. I think, like...
Agreed. It's a luxury product, and so it's not for it's not for everyone, and that's okay.
Life is expensive right now. Like everything is expensive. I mean, I think the flowers should follow suit. It is a luxury product, but a lot of people consider an essential product. Yeah. Self-care.
Well, it has value.
Yeah.
It's just not, our goal is not to create the cheapest product so that the most amount of people can buy it. Yeah. We're trying to find like loyal repeat customers that will meet us at the profitable price point. And that might be less people, but they might end up ultimately buying more. Yeah. Than...
Yeah, I also think, I'm just like thinking on the fly here. I think because we haven't practiced this really that much. We're just like,
we're winging it.
We're winging it. So I also think just narrowing down like how you're going to sell. Yeah. If you're trying to sell in 8 different ways, like your first or even your second year, like that's hard. That's really hard. And even like with my 2, I don't think it's possible. Wholesale.
I don't think it's possible because excellence is going to drop off.
Yeah, you can't do that many things like well. I think. And even like, so I have a small spring CSA this year. And even that, like that extra little thing like stresses me out, honestly. And I think I'm going to cut it next year just because that's just one little extra thing that I have to have in the back of my mind for like April and May is like, I have to have
because you have to fulfill it. Like that now, now comes before farmer's market.
Yes,
because it's like, I have to.
These people have prepaid for the bouquet. So they have to come first. Before wholesale, before the farmer's market. Right. And it's just, it becomes too much. And I've done things in the past where it's like, you know, like one-off of like, people message all the time.
Like a birthday.
I want a bucket for this. And, or like, like I'm getting married and I like do you do bouquets? And I'm like, no, definitely not that. But like, just like the one-off kind of things or like, just trying to do too many things, I think, is just like where people go wrong. I think is like
because in the beginning, your mindset too is a little bit like I want to get my name out. Like you'll do anything for a sale. Yeah, and like I had that in year 1. I dropped it in year 2, but like in year 1, I was like super hustle. I'll say yes to everything. Yeah, and maybe that works for year 1. That's not sustainable. Yeah, like you have to niche down and to not burn out. To do it with excellence. If you even want to have an idea of efficiency, of each week you have like your schedule. Yeah. You can't fit in like the wing it orders anymore or having like you said, you might drop the CSA because you're like, it's small from a percentage of your revenue, but it actually is going to be very dominant in your week. Yeah. Over other things.
I mean, even just 10 bouquets is a lot of stems. Yeah. I mean, that's, you're looking at like at least 100.
And it's a different kind of communication with customers than it is with your florist. And it's different than you manage the farmer's market. Yeah. And so this like idea, I don't care how confident you are. I don't care how much money you have. This idea that you can just like launch and be like, I'm going to sell flowers in every possible way and do it with excellence. Yeah. It's not going to happen.
Yeah. I just feel like if you spread yourself too thin with like all different directions. It's just, it makes it way too complicated.
And you want to be known for excellence because that's what gets you return floral clients. It gets you return customers. And so if you're spread too thin and so like the quality is diminishing, you're not going to become known for something. Like your goal is to become known as a really quality wholesale flower farmer.
Yeah.
And if you're off with like a bunch of mind stress because you wanted to add a CSA, that's not helping like the bigger goal with the bigger revenue and stuff. And so being mindful of that it's not always just about like every possible sale you can get, but a much bigger picture of what your labor looks like, your mental space, your energy, your efficiency, all of that. Yeah, I think those are the three biggest things. Too many varieties, too many sales outlets, and either due to like lack of confidence or whatever, underpricing. Yeah. I think those are the three big categories we see. And they all make sense why it happens. Like, it's not like we're surprised. Yeah. And we were tempted in various ways with that. But if you can avoid it, it's awesome. Yeah. Obviously, like, a lot of people can survive it because you hear a lot of stories where it's just like, I grew too many varieties and then I cut down. It's like, it's survivable. But if you have that knowledge up front, it's really nice to like not have to actually learn the lesson with the burnout and the expenses and just be like, okay, I'm going to trust this advice I'm hearing over and over again and do it. Yeah. And then not learn the more painful experiences. Yeah. I would have liked that. I think when I started out, which is just a couple years ago, like, I think I was just in that mindset of like, oh, well, this is just what you have to do to be a flower farmer. Like, you have to grow 30, 40 varieties. And you have to sell a bunch of different ways. Yeah, and then finally I was like, I'm going to grow 13 varieties and I'm going to sell one way. Yeah. This is way better. This is way less stressful than what I thought when we started out.
Instagram can be really... Yeah. It's so hard with Instagram because you just see... There's so many other farms. Yeah. And, like, you see some bouquets that literally have, like, 20 ingredients in them.
I know.
And you're like, oh, well.
And they sell them for, like, $20. And you're like, ah.
Like, just to grow all the ingredients for that one bouquet is, like, so much.
Sometimes I'll see newbies post on Facebook, and they'll list their variety list. And, like, I don't even recognize the name of some of those flowers. And I'm like, what is that? Yeah. I don't think you need that. Yeah. Like, we can cut that off the list. I know people say, like, well, I just got excited and whatever. It's like, but in July, you're not going to be as excited anymore.
And you're not going to cut on it. And it's just going to be a waste. Like, that's what tends to happen.
That was like, cosmos for me. Yeah. I love cosmos objectively. I think they're beautiful and enjoyable. They look amazing in an arrangement. I didn't cut on them. Yeah. I hated being around them.
They're hard. They're a hard one because you have to constantly, you have to be on top of them or they'll.
And it's a shorter vase life. It's a very specific harvest stage. It's not as like, it's a little more, like sunflowers to me are a little more forgiving. Like, obviously you want to have them as tight as possible, but for a retail bouquet, if they're a little more open, it's like, okay, fine. Yeah. But like cosmos are like, you have to like look and hunt and it's not like. Yeah. Quickly moving through the line.
Cosmos.
Yes, which is different.
They're obsessed with cosmos.
Yeah, which is a decision you have to make. You're like, yes, cosmos are a PIA, but I get paid for it, so that labor is worth it. Yeah. For me, I'm not getting paid for that in my retail bouquets, so it's not worth it for me.
You really have to look back, like season to season, and like be like, did I even cut on this? Like, because if I didn't, then
and that was your sunflower decision. You're like, in the summer. The market is flooded with sunflowers. My customers or my florists don't want it as much. It became really hard to stay on top of the succession planting. You're just kind of like, I'm going to have some early and lates, but I'm going to take a break in the middle. And that was observational for you. For me, my customers only talk to me about sunflowers. Yeah. And so I have like a super dialed in, really specific, massive crop of sunflowers planned this year because it's like, they're going to come out. Yeah, for it. They're going to pay me for that.
Oh my gosh, so disheartening in like July or August when you've like kept these little seedlings alive for 2 weeks and then plant them out in the field, like water them in, and like go back the next day and they're literally like deceased. Like they're just gone because they burnt up in our heat.
July, Oklahoma laughs.
Yeah, I was like, no.
We're done with this.
No, we're going to
stick with the Lizzies. Yeah, we'll stick with the Lizzies.
Like, to get the fall sunflowers, you do have to plant them like in August. Yeah. So, but I just need a break. Like in the summertime, you need a break. Like to keep going with such oh my gosh, it's so hard with the sunflowers to keep going. Like I have to take,
it's not for
I have to have like my block of time where I'm like, oh my gosh, okay, I'm seeding so many things in like February and January, February, March. And then like February, March, April is like, this is when I'm planting. Like, get all the seedlings out of my face. Like, I'm tired of babying all the seedlings. Done. Like, get them all in the field. Like, and then after April, I'm like, I don't want to plant anymore. But like, if you have sunflowers, you like planting more and more.
Every
like,
week.
You're still committed to
planting. That is one
week.
of the reasons. So like year 1 and year 2, I started all of our sunflowers from seed because they did better. Like they were really strong transplants.
Yeah.
And seed trays and potting mix is cheap. And so like, that's how I was doing it. But because we're we're going to like 10,000 plus sunflowers this year.
You can't do those.
We invested in a Jang seeder to do it direct. So, but like, that's not cheap. But like, it took us going through the process of like learning our customers, learning our farm and our environment, like looking at our workflow and efficiencies and exhaustion and stuff. And it was like, okay, we're at the point where like, we need so many that it's not realistic that I do this from trays and transplants anymore.
For sure.
So we needed to invest in something more expensive. That should not be a decision I do in year 1. Like just because a year 3 plus farm uses a Jang seeder, year 1, don't go buy
to
the
plant
like
100 sunflowers
$500 Jang
seeder.
Yeah, and like that's another mistake where it's like you look at a farm that's farther along than you and you kind of do like the cut and paste instead of being like, I need to scale up slowly and I need to learn my customers, my property, my own labor. And like you said, like there's certain things that you hate doing. Yeah. And you're like, I'm the farmer. So I get to make decisions over like, I don't want to do that anymore.
And you're not going to prioritize that over other things. Like you're just going to ignore it.
And my stress points might be completely different. And I'm like, well, that doesn't bother me to do. But like, I refuse to do this. That takes time to learn. And so if you do like a really expensive upfront cut and paste, you're going to have more loss financially in labor and exhaustion and burnout and unsold flowers and all the above. And so that's all to say is like experience and patience pays off. And having an expectation that like year 1 and year 2 is going to look like what year 3 is for us. Like you and I couldn't pull off this year in year 1. Like what we're about to do, we were completely unqualified to do in year 1. Right?
Not even close.
There's no way.
No way. No way. I mean, we've spent now like 3 years literally just like intaking information, learning.
And being like, that was stupid. Don't do that again.
So going into this year from like year 2 to 3, I think I've also doubled like my field size. And at this size where it's going to be this year, I feel like I'm at my
things
top.
that
like,
stressed me out in year 1 don't stress me out now. Because like you gain confidence. And like your stress level goes down on some things. Or you're like, that's not that big of a deal. Or that'll grow out of it. You know, something does something weird and you're like, oh yeah, it'll be fine. You know, in year 1, you're like panicked about it.
Or you just, you just like know your steps. Like say like prepping a row. Like I know exactly like, so I don't live out there. So I'm bringing like all my tools. Like I know exactly all the tools I'm going to need. I need my template. I need the landscape fabric. I need my blowtorch. I need landscape pins. I need sandbags. I need hoops. Like that's all the tools I need to have this row prepped and ready to go. So I just have that in my mind and I can like go to work and I
get
can
it done. Yeah. Another thing too, that's a good point, made me think too of like, we know how long tasks take us now and we do them way more efficiently. Like there's no way I could have planted out plug trays as fast as I do now in year 1.
Right. Yeah.
Or even like start seeds or oh my gosh, my harvesting time is like in half now compared to what it was. And so just that like long-term patience of year 1, year 2, year 3 as you grow and not do the Instagram cut and paste.
Yeah. It's funny. My husband, like through the years, he's like, just like this past fall, just like seeing like the evolution of the farm, like just through somebody who doesn't really like know, like he does help me with like some of like the heavier lifting and stuff like that. But like just when he comes out there and he'll just like make a comment like, this looks a lot more like professional.
This looks a lot less chaotic.
This looks so good. But it's like taken 3 years to get there. So you
don't have like wonky netting and like weird T-post configuration.
And I've kind of just had to like, I have to grow like as my income grows. Like I am not putting in money from our personal finances, which I think is a big thing. I am only pulling from
That's why Allison's gonna be.
business.
That's why Allison's profitable
So,
because she doesn't spend too much money.
Yeah, so I can. It does limit like certain things of my growth. Like I have a certain amount that I can spend, but it does push me.
You would love certain
things. It pushes
things.
me.
You'd love to spend money on certain things, and you're like not in the budget.
Yeah, but like I don't have the money for that right now. So, which is okay.
It's smarter.
Yeah, and that's another thing. Like if you're wanting to be profitable and make money and pull in money for yourself, like you have to make that a priority. My husband, he's in finance, and so like he definitely pushed me this past year.
He's like, you will have a budget.
You are paying yourself this year.
Oh, so that's a good, that's a goal.
Yeah.
That's
so,
an addition. Yeah.
Yeah. He's basically like,
Good.
You need to pay yourself.
Track your hours.
Yeah, like I started basically in April. Like that was like the big start of the season. Like I paid myself.
That's awesome.
And so whatever was left, so I didn't have enough to continue paying myself like after, because I, like in the fall you start to hit your bulbs and corns and all that. So I had to make sure I saved enough for that.
Yeah.
But I did pay myself like throughout the season,
That
which
gives
is
you
a big thing.
It
So
gives
I
you
make
a better,
money. Like, yeah.
It gives you a better idea though too of like, how do you make decisions on how to scale up the next year when you have to work within a budget and not just like your heart's desire of what you want your farm to look like?
Exactly.
You have to be like, yeah, but I can't do 10,000 tulips.
Yeah.
This is my budget.
Yeah.
My heart wants 10,000. Maybe even my customers would like 10,000, but like this is my budget, and working within those parameters is so much smarter than just like purchasing because you want or you have a dream.
Yeah.
But like actually looking at your books.
Right. Yeah. Like I want a high tunnel. Of course I want a high tunnel.
And you're like,
and
I
what
will
I want is
budget
like $7,000.
Guess you have to budget
But then,
for your high
like,
tunnel.
of course, I'm like, 1 week I'm like gung home, like I'm gonna buy a high tunnel this year for sure. And then like a couple weeks go by, and I'm think like,
but I have to sell. Like I
but
have to.
like that's
Yeah.
I could. How many more plants, or like what could I buy for that amount of money to like make more money? Peonies, baptisia, like different things, like perennial type things.
Yeah,
like,
peonies was a great example. You were like, yes, I would love to have 500 peonies. But the way, like, I have enough for this amount.
Yeah.
And then next year, when I have excess, I will add to it.
Yeah.
And, like, that's how you build your peony field. You don't just, like, see an Instagram reel, have a dream, and buy 2,000 peonies on a credit card. You're like, it was budgeted and planned out.
Yeah.
And it also is going to go in pace with your farm because you, over time, are going to grow your floral clients. You're going to grow your other clients. And so when those peonies mature and you actually have built up those relationships, you can sell those stems and not just have a bunch of really expensive peony compost.
Right. So. Well, let's be real. I have a garage fridge as my
We
cooler.
are not cooler flower farmers yet. That's not in our budget.
You know what?
You like my fridge right over there?
It looks a lot like mine. It looks a lot like mine.
We would love a cool walk-in cooler, wouldn't we?
We
would use it.
And you know what? When the house is built, that's what I'm going to have. I will have one, but I don't have it yet. And I don't buy things based on like my hopes and dreams.
Or we would both use a walk-in cooler and we would love it and we would enjoy it. Yeah. It's not like it's something that wouldn't get use, but it's like it has a cost. Yeah. And to afford it, we have to sell X amount. Yeah. And we're building that up and all of that. And so
it takes time to like get there, I think. And that's how both of our businesses have kind of like evolved, is like building as we go, like not getting everything at the beginning and trying to make anything back from that. It's just kind of
because the goal isn't to plant as much as you can. The goal is to sell everything you plant. Yes. And it's like an inverse way to think about it. And that naturally will have you grow slowly. Yeah. Rather than like a race to who can plant the longest zinnia rows. And it's like unimpressed. Yeah. Like, did you sell all of those zinnia stems sort of thing? Well, this was awesome. I hope this is really helpful, especially for those of you that watch our channel that's on the newer end. I really wanted to have Allison on because she is a direct example of a lot of things we talk about on our channel of being profitability minded, efficiency minded. She's growing slowly, but she's growing purposefully. And I just think she does a really good job. And I love that she sells differently than me. So we have great conversations. She's really competent, all of that. And so I would encourage you to follow her on Instagram. Ignore her Facebook, right? She won't be there.
You know what? I've been posting on the Facebook, and you know this. I've been
You
posting
have,
on the
you
Facebook.
have, because you're getting ready for farmers markets.
Yeah.
So you know the farmers market people are like, when are you gonna have flowers?
I was asking Alex, I'm like, how do I get people to like come look at the page again? Because like I didn't post for like 4 months.
Well, you've killed your algorithm,
Like,
so you have to work on that.
I'm like, I have to post every day. Okay, I'll try.
But your Instagram stories, I think, are the best because you just like, you do a lot of great like updates. So
yeah.
For newer growers of being like, this is what fields normally look like in spring.
Yeah.
This is what
sure.
overwintering is on just a smaller scale. Like you just said, you don't have like massive ventilated high tunnels and a walk-in cooler and all of that we aspire to, but we're just not there yet. And so if you're also not there yet, it's awesome to see other farms like being profitable, selling a ton, and not having like the Cadillac setup. So awesome. Well, thanks, Allison, and thank you guys. We'll see you in the next video. Test. Okay. Hold on. I don't want us to like
let's not do
get going and then have to redo it.
Like,
right?
No volume.
Yeah, I'm just gonna ask Eric. That's like my nightmare is to film 45 minutes and then he'd be like, nothing recorded. Watch, we'll put this with the bloopers at the end. Test.